tell you this. New Zealand was the most beautiful place I've visited. Well, or at least the second best. I'll tell you what, it's a good place to visit. Well, hello everyone. If you are new to this channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. In today's video, I will be going over or providing a review on my trip to New Zealand. Because when I was looking for trips to New Zealand, I decided to take a tour. So I just feel it's just great to provide my review so whoever is interested in doing a similar tour or thinking about traveling to New Zealand will have additional information to make an informed decision. I will start with this. When going to New Zealand, you have a few options. You can see the North Island, you can see the South Island, you can see the entire country. What I've been told is if you're more interested in history, you visit the North Island, well, history in Hobbiton. If you're more interested in nature, hiking, mountains, scenery, then you visit the South Island. Now, the entire country is beautiful, and the entire country has a little bit of both. But that's how it was generally explained to me. I made the decision that I was more interested in scenery and nature, and even though I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, Hobbiton is a movie set. And it's not the original movie set. I decided, well, I'm going to go to the South Island. Now, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, yes, Hobbiton's in the North Island. But they did shoot a few interesting scenes in the South Island, which I will get to because I was able to take a tour. And I might as well give a review on that tour. On that too. Anyway, the tour that I decided to take was the Intrepid South Island Premium Tour. Now, when it comes to Intrepid, they are a tour company, a very popular tour company. I've taken a few trips with them. I've taken the Intrepid tour for Italy and the Intrepid tour for South Korea. I've had generally good experiences with them, and therefore I decided to go with them again for New Zealand. And overall, I thought it was a very excellent trip. I highly recommend it. This video is, again, just going to go into more details about the trip. The first thing that you need to consider when going to New Zealand, at least in my experience, is the flight. Depending on where you're coming from, it can be a very long flight. I was coming from the west coast of the United States, and it was 14 hours. So much so that spending 14 hours on a plane is not exactly the best of all experiences. Especially on my flight, because while the flight was overall smooth, you do encounter turbulence. That's just the nature of flying. And there was a kid on the flight who was begging, I want to go home. I don't want to be here. Why am I trapped? It wasn't a good experience for a good portion, for some portion of the flight. But overall, it was smooth. Anyway, 14 hours. So you have to consider the flight time. All right? So if you're interested in a long flight and you don't like long flights, you're going to have to figure out a way. So the tour for the South Island starts in Christchurch. You land, you go through customs. Remember, now one thing to consider about both New Zealand and Australia, they are highly protective of their ecosystems. And what I mean by that is they're very careful about what you bring in. And generally, if you're bringing in food from outside of the country, more than likely, you will have to get rid of it. They do check this. They will check. They will dog sniff your bag. They will dog sniff you to make sure you're not bringing anything you're not supposed to bring into the country. A second thing that you want to consider when traveling to New Zealand is that you don't need cash. So if you're the type of person who don't like to carry cash, or if you're like me on this trip who forgot to bring cash, you can generally get by with Apple Pay and the equivalent for Google, or you just have cards, all that is fine. Most of the country, in a good portion of the country, is pretty much cashless anyway. In fact, the tour guide was saying that even in the country, it's more prevalent in the countryside that they don't use cash. It's just everything's electronic now. Therefore, you don't really need cash. Obviously, they're on the metric system. They drive on the left side of the road, and English is the predominant language. You're aware of those things, you're generally gonna have a good time. Now, as it relates to the tour, flight lands in Christchurch. On the day of the tour, they have a welcome dinner. Most tour companies do. Well, Intrepid does this. Gate 1 does it. I'm pretty sure G Adventures does the same thing. They have a welcome tour to allow people the opportunity to meet the tour guide and to meet their travel mates. It's generally at 6 o'clock. They'll get all your dietary information to make sure that whatever restaurant they go to can accommodate all the dietary needs: vegan, vegetarian, lactose intolerant, the entire spectrum. So, but you have to give that information. If once you land, the tour generally doesn't start until 6 o'clock. Depending on when you land, that free time is yours. I got there early, and therefore my hotel room wasn't ready. I took that opportunity to walk around, just to walk around the city. And Christchurch it's a beautiful city. It's a very clean city, at least the part that I was at in the downtown area was very clean. I will add that for Intrepid tourists, for their premium tours, you stay in high-end 4-5-star hotels. They do offer other tours, standard tours, basic tours. You generally go around to the same cities, similar cities, not in the same order, but you generally see the same areas, but the hotel level can be different. And therefore, if you're a person more interested in, like, saying high-end hotels, the premium tour is probably where you want to be. If you're just, I just want to go to the country, I don't care where we're staying, it can be in the lower end or it can be in hostels, then you generally go with the basic tour. Basic tours tend to go a bit younger. And just excuse me for a minute. I do have a cat. What is it, Iggy? Premium tours tend to go a bit older or a bit more expensive. But yes, they do tend to run a bit older. And that also plays a role. So I would say generally, if you're over 40 years old, you probably want to go more for the premium tour. If you're under 40, because that's generally where the age group lies. If you're under 40, you probably want to go more for the standard and basic tour, because a lot of people who take those tours tend to be a bit younger. The tour that I was on I forgot. So Intrepid will provide you with some information about your tour mates before you arrive. So one thing that I did was that I called Intrepid ahead of time and just asked, okay, what is the demographics of the trip? And they were able to they don't give you specific ages and race and things like that, but they will say the male to female ratio, the age ranges. So therefore, they might say it's two people who are between 30 and 40, two people between 40 and 50, two people between 50 and 60, two people between 60 and 70, and they'll let you know how many are solo and how many. They'll let you know how. Yeah, they'll let you know. They're not gonna go into that information, but they'll let you know these people are in a couple, are coming together, and therefore you give you some idea of the demographics of the trip. So if you're that type of person, then that's one way to ask about to make sure. I'm sorry about my cat. It's my cat. But that's one way they'll to get some information about the trip before you actually travel. Anyway, so you get to Christchurch. You have some free time before the welcome tour. I was able to I know they have a market area that I was able to visit. I believe that I was also able to visit their botanical garden, and then you have the welcome dinner, and that's when you basically meet everybody. You meet everybody on your tour. You get to say welcome, say hi. You get to get some interaction with the tour guide. Once you eat, then that's more free time. That whenever the welcome dinner ends, because the next day for this particular tour, we were on our way to the next destination, and I'm just going through the itinerary, which is really wake up for breakfast. Now, I will add that for the Intrepid tours, most of the time, they will cover breakfast, and they will definitely cover breakfast. Lunch and dinner can be optional depending on the tour. Some tours, dinner is covered. The final dinner is always covered, but in between the tour, the dinner might be covered. Lunch, in most cases, aren't covered. You're on your own for lunch. Breakfast usually is covered, either with a voucher or the hotel provides it. So that's just something to consider as you're looking at these tours. Now, as it relates to the next day of the tour, we went to, they say Christchurch, but in reality, you're only there for a morning, and then you're on your way traveling. And you're going to Greymouth, and Punakaiki, which is you're traveling to the west side or the west coast of the country. And really what that means is that it's a long drive. And between that long drive, you'll stop at the Castle Hill area, there will be pictures showing all this, and which is really beautiful. I went on a very sunny day, and you get to stop, take pictures, do a little walk, and then you'll get back in your vehicle, the tour guide, and then you'll continue on driving. You might make some stops along the way, bathroom stops for lunch, stops for coffee, something to drink, restrooms. Then eventually you'll get to Punakaiki, which is, think of it as not necessarily tropical, but it's not the best way I can say it. It's not necessarily tropical, but it is a resort that's close to the ocean, where you will have dinner with your travel mates, and then you'll rest for the night, and then you'll be able to go to the Pancake Rock Park. And the hotel that we stayed at, because this is a premium tour, I guess I should give some reviews of the hotels too. So the hotel that we stayed at was the Hotel Punakaiki, which is numerous number of rooms that provide a view of the ocean, but the views that we had, or the hotel rooms that we had, were at ground level behind shrubs. It's a very nice hotel, but I will just say that the location did not live up to the expectations. But the hotels were very nice. You stay there for a night, you wake up, you have breakfast, you'll take the next part of the tour will take you to the take you to the Pancake Rocks, which is a location looking over the ocean. You get to view some rock. It's a park, a national park. Again, South Island is all about nature. And then you continue on with the tour. I will say that before you do all that, you will go to Greymouth. I forgot that part. And that's basically an extended. You get to free time to walk around the city. They will take you to a brewery. If you don't drink, you can do something else. One thing I did learn about Intrepid is that it's a very open type of tour, which means it's not as strict. And therefore, generally, if you're like, I don't drink, I don't want to do this, I want to go do something else, the tour guide more than likely will allow you to do it. But you got to be back. Got to be back in time to make sure that when they leave, you can go do something. Everybody can go. But just so you know, that is a part of the tour in which they'll take it to a brewery for non-alcoholics and people who just don't drink in general. It's something to think about. But anyway, okay. So after you go through the Pancake Rocks and you do that part of the tour, you'll start heading south, and then at that point, you'll go to Hokitika and Franz Josef. Franz Josef is just, at this point you're really about to look at glaciers and nature, and that's your opportunity to do so. But Hokitika is another city. Now, when I went, it was free time, and you'll be able to walk around the beach, take pictures of the sign, and then the tour guide will also take you on they call it a treetop adventure. Now I thought when they meant treetop that you'll be walking close to the ground, but it's really what it says. It's a treetop adventure. You'll be walking on walkways that are very high up in the sky, and they're very high up, so much so that there is a spot along this tour at least this particular adventure, that will allow you to zip line back down. You don't have to do it. You can continue to walk, but you can zip line back down. But if you are afraid of heights, I'll just leave it at that. If you're afraid of heights, you probably don't want to do this particular tour. But you do that, and then you'll continue to go along to Franz Josef. Now, Franz Josef is, if you're interested in any type of adventure, this is probably the place that you want to go. But I will pause here, and I'll see you back on the other side to continue talking about Franz Josef.